Howdy y'all. Today I'm starting a new series, Mortality with Meep. I've got my actuarial shirt on, and you know you can trust me. So I'm starting at the very beginning, a very good place to start now. So I'm starting with foundational terms when we're talking about mortality, and specifically I'm talking about, did we get that? Q sub x, okay? So a lowercase q, a subscript x. What does this mean? This is the probability that someone currently age x, so let's say q sub 65, the probability someone currently age 65, that they will die within the next year, so in a period of 1 year. This is standard notation, at least in the US. There are different kinds of actuarial notations, but this is the one that we use the most. When you hear about a mortality table, and if you see a mortality table, almost always the structure is you have the ages going along the side, and then you have the Q sub x's for each of the ages, so whole age. And I'll talk a little bit about how you figure that out for yourself if it's not your birthday, but let's just assume birthday because that's close enough. This is the foundation. We develop everything else from these Q sub x's when we calculate life expectancy, when we calculate survival probability. So just want to let you know, there is a survival probability, and that's P sub x. Okay, so people remember, mind your P's and Q's. So P sub x is the probability that you survive 1 year. So these tend to be very high. The Q sub x's tend to be very low, except at high ages. When we talk about mortality improvement, we're talking about this Q sub x getting smaller. So you have, say, a 2% improvement, and that's quite big. You would multiply the Q sub x by 98%, so 1 minus 2%, and you apply that to the Q sub x and make it smaller. So every time I talk about or graph mortality rates, I'm using these Q sub x's. That's very basic. You look up the tables from the Social Security Administration, from the SOA's mort.soa.org or mortality.org's tables, and I'll be looking at those in time. It's all Q sub x's. And that's what we mainly look at and develop everything else. So now you know Q sub x.